In 1954, the CIA began a deep undercover operation to study the effects of LSD on unwilling participants who patronized prostitutes in the San Francisco area. This operation was so secretive that high-standing government officials weren't even aware of its existence. This operation, known as Midnight Climax, was part of the larger MKUltra operation that was going on at the time. This week, we will uncover the twisted story of how the CIA drugged unwilling participants and filmed them for research purposes. Welcome to Let's Be Briefed. I'm Sydney.
And I'm Sarah.
And this week, we're covering Operation Midnight Climax.
Ooh. This is a big one.
Yeah, do you know anything about this?
I mean, I know, isn't this where, they were drugged to see if they could, is this not the same thing as, didn't we do one where they could, see things? Like psychic?
That was Project Stargate, I think.
Yeah.
And then MKUltra was the big,
Oh, okay.
which that'll probably end up being an episode eventually, but this is just a subset part of MKUltra.
I just know they drugged him, but I guess I don't know beyond that.
Yeah. We'll get there. You'll know by the end.
Okay.
So, I guess we'll start with LSD, which was first synthesized by Swiss chemist Albert Hofmann in 1938. And by the 1950s, the U.S. government began to research how LSD could be used for mind control and other, nefarious uses during the Cold War.
Wow. I feel like that's really fast.
I know. Also, 1938 is a lot. For some reason, I think, LSD in the 60s, but I didn't realize that it was all the way back in the 30s.
Right. Well, maybe it wasn't. You couldn't really get it, maybe, until...
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
So, this initial project, known as MKUltra, was headed by Sidney Gottlieb, who spent $240,000 buying the entire world supply of LSD and brought it back from Europe to the United States.
What? Well, that's why you couldn't get it.
I know. The U.S. was buying it all.
You just buy the whole world's supply. How do you know that's the whole world's supply?
Well, I mean, I think that there were only a few people making it at that time.
Crazy.
I read a Vice article about these people who made LSD in Scotland, and it was really interesting, and I wish I had looked it up for this, but it was before LSD was illegal, there was a whole ring of LSD synthesizers in Scotland.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I read it a long time ago, but it stuck with me. But MKUltra will be an episode for the future, but this week we're focusing on one of the more well-known sub-operations of the program, which is Operation Midnight Climax. And this operation took place in a safe house in San Francisco on Telegraph Hill, and a similar government-run brothel in Greenwich Village in New York. The prostitutes were paid $100, which is $1,016 in today's money, per participant they could lure from local bars back to the brothel.
Oh my gosh.
And then they secretly dosed the participants with LSD.
What the fuck?
And filmed to see how they reacted to the drug.
A full dose? Doesn't LSD last?
Yeah, heavily dosed. Not just a little bit of a dose. They heavily dosed them.
Because doesn't that last 12 to 16
hours
or something?
Yes. Yeah.
What the fuck? I didn't know they lured people.
Yeah, random people from bars, and these
who's already drunk, so that's also gonna be bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yep.
Did they?
And then they sent them on their way without telling them what happened also.
I can't imagine.
But I know. And, like, this is before LSD is, like, a well-known thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, this is, like, they would have no idea what happened to them. Like, they would not know.
Yeah, the trauma. You'd have major trauma. I'd have PTSD.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So, the whole apartment was decorated with photos of, like, French can-can dancers and, like, red bedroom curtains. Like, it was, like, an upscale establishment, but the participants had no idea of knowing that every room was, like, elaborately wired with surveillance equipment and outfitted with two-way mirrors that allowed them to be filmed and observed without their knowledge. Like, there were people watching them, like, and they would, like, let them, like, do stuff with the prostitutes too. And, like, the guy running it was, like, obsessed. Like, he had his little room outfitted with, like, a toilet and a refrigerator, so he never had to leave.
That's gross.
Like, this was kinky.
What the fuck?
Yeah, this is government funded.
Yeah, that's our tax money.
This is government funded research.
Oh my god. Also, like, doesn't LSD stay in your spine? These people could have flashbacks.
I've heard that.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true.
And I think, like, people had to be, like, hospitalized, and it was, like, widely controversial when it came out.
I could see that. I mean, I bet people, like, got sick, too. Like, you don't know what's happening. And if you're already drunk, too, like, you probably threw up or something, too. And had to, like dehydrated, probably.
Yeah. And they were just doing this to people. Like, before people knew that this actually happened, can you imagine being told about that experience? You went to this brothel and these prostitutes and you had this, like, crazy experience?
Yeah, they would think you had a mental illness.
Yeah.
Wow.
But, I guess this is, like, kind of unrelated because there wasn't a ton about actual Midnight Climax, but, like, another story that isn't necessarily directly related but is from around this same time is the death of Frank Olson, which I looked this up. Once I looked this up, I was like, oh my god, we're related, because he was born in Hurley, Wisconsin, which is on the border of Wisconsin and Michigan. I think the other side is Ironwood, but my dad, my last name is Olson, spelled the same way. My dad grew up in Iron Mountain, Michigan, which is, like, maybe, like, an hour or so away. I'm like, dude, we're so fucking related. Like, there's no way that we're not related. But also, Olsen is a really common last name, and that area had a lot of Swedish immigrants, so maybe not, but I'd like to think we are.
Yeah, you could think that.
Yeah. So, Frank Olson was a scientist and employee of the CIA whose death remains shrouded in controversy. He was born in 1910 and was a talented biochemist and worked for the Special Operations Division of the CIA and was involved in research related to biological and chemical warfare during the Cold War era. Wow. He also played a significant role in MKULTRA, which aimed to explore the use of mind-altering substances and psychological manipulation. But on November 28th, 1953, Olson fell from a hotel window in New York City under mysterious circumstances.
What? How can you fall from a window? Didn't they have, or is that just now that, like, the windows can't open?
He, like, supposedly crashed through the window.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Just wait.
Okay.
So his death was initially reported as a suicide, but later revelations suggested that he might have been pushed or otherwise coerced.
Wow.
But he had been dosed with LSD that night. Anyway. A lot of, like, investigations and inquiries over the years have raised suspicion of foul play, with some speculating that he became a liability to the CIA due to his growing disillusionment with the agency's activities.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, like, if I were involved with that, like, would I be saying, this is kind of fucked up, like, we can't just be doing this to people? You know what I mean? Like, they were not doing anything ethically.
Right, yeah. But would you also say that out loud, I guess? When you are dealing with the CIA?
But if you're, like, involved in the planning, wouldn't you be like, hey, guys, maybe this is going, like, a little bit too far?
Right.
Like, we need to do this differently?
Yeah, you at least need to try. Like, I feel like if you're that type of person, which I hope I would be, you just gotta say something.
Right.
Yeah, and then you die.
So, yeah. So, when he fell out of the window, it was like a high window in a hotel. Initially, they said it was a suicide, but, like, people reported hearing a loud crash and seeing him falling, and many people questioned whether he was pushed or coerced. And, like, I didn't write this down, but there was another CIA operative in the bedroom, in the hotel room, that they found. He was sitting on the toilet with his hands between his head between his knees, like, upset. And he said, like, I don't know, he said that he jumped, but, like, someone else was in the room with him.
Right. Well, I guess it could be either. I mean, you could be shaken because you just pushed him out the window, or you could also be shaken because you just witnessed him kill himself.
Right.
Like, either way, but yeah, that is weird.
But apparently he wasn't even covered in, like, cuts like you would think from crashing through a window.
Oh. Yeah, you'd think. So he wasn't, like, bleeding? I mean, I'm sure he was from the fall, but...
Yeah, I don't know.
Or maybe you couldn't tell.
No, it was just, like, he wasn't, like, cut up like you would expect him from jumping out a window.
Yeah, that's weird.
And another thing that kind of made it controversial was that he was, like, deeply involved in the MKULTRA program.
Right.
And, like, wasn't on board with it, so they think he could have been a liability. And they think that maybe he was subjected to a covert LSD experiment without his consent days before his death.
Wow.
So either he had psychological distress, or he knew what they had done to him and was upset about it, and then they pushed him out. Like, he was like, I'm gonna tell people you're doing this, because they did it to him.
Right. But I've also heard LSD can trigger, like, psychosis.
Yeah, I mean, right. Like, you could very easily also jump out a window.
Right.
But...
Or, like, schizophrenia. I think I've heard it trigger that. Or, like, stuff like that. So...
Yeah. But there have just been a lot of, like, inconsistent accounts and explanations provided by the government and the people who were involved, and I wish I had written down what those were, but my sick brain isn't thinking clearly.
I mean, you could look it up if you want.
Oh my god, I don't think this is gonna be information I find easily. She was also told his wife was told not to look at the body.
Oh. Well, yeah, he fell out of a building.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I don't know, but I feel like I'd want to make sure it was him or something. Like, don't you have to have someone that verifies?
Know.
I guess they know what he looks like. I don't know.
Right.
But I'd want to, like, see to make sure it was him. I don't know. I feel like you just have to see certain things.
The family was given $750,000 in a monetary settlement for wrongful death and an apology from the president when it came to light in the Rockefeller Commission in 1975.
Oh, wow.
That's kind of damning evidence.
Right.
And his son had his body exhumed in 1994, but they found no disfiguring facial injuries, and that they found a suspicious bruise on his left temple, which led to the medical examiner to conclude that Olsen had been stunned by a blow to the head in the hotel room.
Oh. And then they threw him out?
Yeah, and then they threw him out the window.
But wouldn't he still have injuries from the fall?
I would think
Wouldn't his
so.
face still